Today is March 26, 2014, and we are interviewing Eugene Vahle at the Quincy Courthouse in Quincy, Illinois. What date were you born on, sir?
February 24th, 1925.
Thank you. My name is Dylan Welker, and I'll be the interviewer. Could you state for the record what branch of service you served in?
Army,
And what time periods did you serve?
1943 and 1946.
Excellent.
From 43 to 46.
43 to 46.
Yeah.
And you prepared a statement for us today?
Yes.
All right. If you'd like to go ahead and make that statement at this time.
Okay, it's a long one.
That's all right.
I have to stumble over the first page. I was going to rewrite it. I didn't get a chance. Okay. So the other guy took my picture. You're not going to be on the camera.
We're actually on video right now, sir.
Oh, I didn't see that. The guy that was there before for the library in the Quincy University. He had a great big old camera on this. That's old time. That was quite a few years ago.
Yes, sir.
Well, let's see. Okay, my name is Eugene, better known as Gene. William Vahle, Sr. 89 years young, born and raised in Quincy, Illinois on February 24th, 1925. My elementary schools were Catholic, mostly St. Peter's. Graduated June 1943 and at Quincy High School at 18 years old. My family consisted of my dad, pattern maker for 48 years, my mom, 4 brothers, and 1 sister, Marilyn. That's Marilyn over there. Anyhow, she wanted to come with me. She's 82 years young and with me today. Had 4 brothers. They all smoked. They all dead. Brother older than me, who was also in the Army in World War II, stationed in the Aleutian Islands and later Panama. The other 3 brothers were younger than me. Okay, Rich was in the Army, Don and Jerry in the Navy. Jerry was on a destroyer, the U.S. ship that represented the United States at the wedding of Princess Grace, U.S. actress, Princess Grace Kelly, to the Prince of Monaco. I don't know if you remember that. Very good, I got past that point. Okay, so anyhow, when I graduated from high school, I got a letter from the U.S. government that says it's to have a free breakfast and then a train ride to Chicago for a very embarrassing physical, my first train ride. Anyhow, then a train ride back to Quincy and then all the way down to Texas, where it was very hot. Struggled through 17 weeks of basic training in the infantry and received my expert infantryman badge there. That was at Camp Walters, Texas. Left there, I believe, September or October 1943 and traveled to Camp Maxey, Texas, forming part of the 99th Infantry Division, Checkerboard Division. They were just forming. Had extensive training there in the infantry, learning to use the .45 pistol, 30 caliber rifle, the M1, which most of the men learned, and they shot all day for the next year or so. I don't know about that. That's a lot, quite a story. I was transferred from F Company, a rifle company, to Headquarters Company. 2nd Battalion, 395th Infantry Regiment of the 99th Division. That was an anti-tank platoon. The first one, the F Company, was a rifle company. And so I learned the smaller version of the M1, the carbine. Same 30 caliber, but smaller, because I was also part of a bazooka team, 2-man, and needed to carry the bazooka and the large bazooka shells. A bazooka shell is made to knock out a tank. Also learned the 30 caliber machine gun, 57 millimeter anti-tank gun, in which was towed by 1.5 ton truck. That's the reason I was able to collect all my stuff, because I had a truck.
Had room to carry everything with you.
Yeah, and so it was against the German law to do it, though. You're not supposed to have any souvenirs from them. Also learned how to throw hand grenades, and trained on a 60 millimeter mortar and a BAR, Browning automatic rifle. Hand grenade, meant to explode in a few seconds, breaks apart, and each little piece is made to kill or injure badly anyone nearby. We all trained very extensively on all these guns and traveled around the countryside with our weapons, the compass, and the map. Also had mock warfare between our division and an armored division in southern Texas. They were almost ready to go to the war, but the 99th won over the armored. So the armored division could not go to war yet. We did. The 99th left that month of September 1944. And I don't know about this here. We traveled by several trains, ending up in Boston, Massachusetts. Saw some sights in the nearby towns. At the RKO Grand Palace Theater, I saw and heard Lena Horne, the singer. The 99th Division, consisting, I believe, much larger than any other division, approximately 15,000 men, plus 3 tank battalions and 5 tank destroyer battalions were connected. While the 99th was still building up their strength in Camaxie, Texas, they shipped out approximately 1,500 men from our outfit, trained and ready for combat to other divisions. So then the 99th replaced them with the same number of men from some camp where they were trained to be officers or somebody special. These were guys with smarts. That gave the 99th Division not only strength, but also higher wisdom. There are many books out now about the 99th Division, more than any other outfit that I know. I have several of these, and there are many more out there somewhere. The 99th was trained to bring strength and force and wisdom to Europe after the beachheads were taken in France, and then to recover what the Germans had taken earlier. We got past 3 pages. At Boston, the 99th occupied many ships. We left at night, very little lighting, because we knew that the German submarines were out there in the Atlantic, sinking ships almost as fast as we would put them in the water. When at sea the next morning, I could see larger ships around us, an aircraft carrier full of planes, in front of us one day, behind us the next day. Way out in the distance, in a circle, all around us were destroyers for the best protection. They wanted to make sure 99th Division got there. Never been on a ship before, so I got very seasick for several days. And I tried to go up to the cafeteria, but could only eat an orange or candy bars. The ship sold us candy bars by the box. Figured what to do. Okay, I figured finally what to do to avoid seasickness. After lying in my bunk too much and getting bed sores, I would go up on the top deck and sit in the middle of the ship. And that worked pretty good. Not much rocking there.
What kind of ship was it?
It's just a ship made for transport. I think it was a new one. Forgot the name now. Just a transport ship.
How long were you on the ship?
Let's see, that's on here. Got over the seasickness, then landed in England 11 days later. Okay, had to zigzag all the way across the ocean to keep the German subs from tracking us. That's why it took so long. In England, we walked around the countryside, good exercise. It rained at least some every day we were in England, except one. After 30 or 31 days, we took some kind of smaller ships, some kind of landing craft. We drove in trucks over No, we drove in trucks. Our 10-man squad is in the headquarters, 2nd Battalion, had their own anti-tank platoon, and they would have ridden in our own trucks, the 1.5 ton with the big gun on the back. So the rest of the guys all went in their own trucks.
You drove your trucks, and you were in England, and you drove your trucks onto the landing ships, and then the landing ships carried you across the channel to France.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we got off there. We had everything that we needed to go to war when we landed there before we left England, because we trained there in England. Not trained, but regroup, you might say.
What day did you land in France?
I don't think I put that on there, did I? We left in September '44, and I'm not sure. It might be in there somewhere.
Please move forward then.
We drove in trucks. It was anyhow, it was somewhere in September, and we. Okay, we went about 3/4 of the way through France. Because, you know, it was always taken, the beachhead was strewn with rubble from all the buildings blown apart, from those 5,000 ships that came from England and sailed to the beaches in France. One triangular piece was all that was left of one building for a long ways inland. Everything else was down.
This
And
would have
we
been
had-
in Normandy.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's the beach. There was several beaches that we hit on
Yes, sir.
June the 6th. But we came in, our outfit was trained in Texas just for coming on after the beach was taken, so that we could go into France, where they had already taken about 3/4 of it. Then it was our job to finish fighting in France. All the men rode about halfway through France, which was already taken away from the Germans. This was now late in October of 1944, late in October. So it would have been, we were in England for 1 month. We exchanged some shooting and shelling for the next 2 months in France and Belgium. While in Belgium, the Germans figured we were too close to their country, so they managed to gather up approximately 250,000 men and all the tanks and guns they could get from the other parts of the country that they were at war, including their latest great Tiger II tanks. That was extra armor on the side. We found out later our bazookas weren't any good. Somewhere in here, my friend from Ohio, I went to see him once in a while after the war. But anyhow, he said that he shot his bazooka. He was a bazooka man too. So he shot his bazooka at the tank. No, he hit it. You knew he hit it. Then but nothing happened. He took another shot. Still didn't do anything. So by that time, the tank turret turned around and blew his leg off. Well, now I'm finding out in the books that what happened when they gathered all the men and tanks and everything from all the fronts and the very latest tanks that they had just made, I guess they threw them into the Bulge. We didn't know that was going to be the Battle of the Bulge. We didn't know what was happening.
Correct.
It just happened.
Yeah.
So either way, I guess that's why his bazooka then must have bounced off of that Tiger tank. It's the newest one. They had just put new metal on the sides.
You were in an
More-
anti-tank battalion.
Hmm?
You were in the anti-tank battalion
Anti-tank platoon.
that
Yeah.
had bazookas that could not penetrate the enemy's tanks.
The last ones, they did before that. They
Yeah.
didn't penetrate anything, just took one shell, one tank, to knock it out. But when they got those latest, I think they call them the Great Tiger, or another name, number 2,
Tiger II.
Tiger 2, yeah, something like that. Well, let's see, all the men rode about halfway through France, which was already taken. I think I said that. We exchanged some shooting and shelling for the next 2 months in France and Belgium. Now, while in Belgium, the Germans figured we were too close. I think I read that part. And they had 250,000 men.
Yes, sir.
Okay, you got that part.
Uh-huh.
All right, now, at 6 in the morning of December 16, 1944, they threw all of that at us at one time. And we didn't know it was the Bulge. Nobody knew what was going on. We thought the Germans were already defeated because they weren't doing anything. They were very quiet and rounding up all those tanks and everything in the woods. We kind of suspected a little something, but not enough to know that it was going to be the Battle of the Bulge. That's what they call it later. And then there were 22 divisions, 22 German divisions. And the U.S. had only 8 divisions. And it didn't seem quite fair to me. Thought I'd put it in. So it all happened on the 80-mile front. The North Shoulder consisted of the 99th Division and the 2nd Division in the Ardennes Forest, and the Germans hit us first, being very well trained in Texas and some fighting in France. We fought back. They hit us again, and we stopped them again. Later in the book, oh yeah, okay, so much firepower, shelling and shooting, we really did not know the Germans had so much left. They were so quiet for a few days and almost thought they quit. And then I went back here. Later on in the book, I read that a German general, or whatever he was, said that they thought they had hit a brick wall. That was the 99th. Then they had to go around us to their left, which was the south. And they did go through the newer division that just got there, the 106, and they lost a lot of men. Now, the 99th Division had 5,000 casualties in that one Battle of the Bulge. 3,000 killed, 2,000 wounded and missing. That's a lot. One battle, just one battle. That battle took 8 weeks. The Germans did not penetrate our line of defense quite a ways. That later was named Battle of the Bulge. Lasted 8 weeks, December 16, 1944 to January 28, 1945. The 99th went on and was to be the first full division across the Remagen Bridge. You've heard of that?
Yes,
The
sir.
Remagen Bridge deal. I've got a disc on that somewhere that tells about that. Yeah, I can read more of what I did than what I was going through, when I was going through. Then on to the industrial area called the Ruhr. The 99th Division captured a complete Volksgrenadier Division in the Ruhr pocket. It's spelled R-U-H-R, maybe you heard that. And then we got a battle star for that Ruhr pocket. So much, now that's, okay, we're getting through this.
You're doing good.
I told you it'd be much better. Okay, then the 99th went south through Germany, and parts of the 99th joined forces with the 3rd Armored under General George Patton. Then on down to the border of Germany and across the Danube River and into Austria. Just a few days into Austria, and the war in Europe ended. This was May 8, 1945. The rest of our troops went across Germany and met up with the Russians. At end of the Bulge, there were 28 divisions of U.S. troops. There was only 8 to start with. Where are the other 20? We could have used them. But that included the 1st Division. We were right alongside, and they put me into that later. I got the story here. We rested for a while. Then we went back north into Germany, and part of the 99th settled into the town of Bamberg, Germany. There we joined the 1st Infantry Division. The 1st fought with us in the Bulge. They were somewhere behind us to start with, but since there was only 8, we were the 2 on the corner, North Shoulder, but they were behind us, I think, on rest. So it was them that really helped us out. So our part of the 99th Division and the 1st Division were going to go to Japan to help clean the mess up over there. That's why they put us in that in the 1st. Shortly, the atomic bombs were dropped and the Japanese gave up. So then the 1st Division, which consisted of parts of the 99th, stayed in Bamberg, Germany, as the Army of Occupation, and then until March the 7th, 1946. That's when I wouldn't left. to go back to the good old USA. Okay. Landing in New York, this is after the war now. Landing in New York, then to Chicago, or actually Camp Grant, Illinois. Then train to Quincy, Illinois, 314 South 11th Street, where my dad and mom and my 4 brothers and 1 sister still live. I guess you were there. She's taking us all in. She likes anything that has to do with me. She said with the service or whatever. I only had 1 sister, 4 brothers, and they're all gone. Now, Bob still in the Army, but left the Aleutians and went to 2 more years of enlistment in Panama. I got home in the evening of March 15th, 1946. The only homecoming celebration that I had was in the harbor of New York. There was a large barge out there in the water we were passing, and the band played as the girls danced. So what a nice treat. That's all we had when we come in. So just think of all the thousands, though, of our men who did not or were not going to return. They left their homes in the U.S. and possibly a family, maybe some kids, maybe to never return. At home, it was like, it was dark when I entered the kitchen. Dad and Mom and a renter from upstairs, Mrs. Davis, were sitting around the kitchen table by a dim light, talking. Now, I know you didn't do that old box already. Okay, I wonder if they knew I was coming back at that time. I sure was lucky, one of the lucky ones, but I had some help from God. We all over there had lots of reasons to pray, and we did. The next morning, I got in the car that I bought from my brother Bob, the one that's in the Army now. Bob had broken the transmission before he left for the Army and had put in a new transmission. Oh, my dad put in a new transmission for me, knowing I was going to return. It was the 1933 Continental Flyer. Had suicide doors in the front. Great little car, and I learned to drive it from another brother Rich. Later, I bought a more modern 1946 Ford Deluxe, black, shining with a big steering wheel. All my brothers, Mona, a cousin, and others around in it. Bought a radio for it, rear guards, fog lights, all that kind of stuff. So I was having a ball for it. After a year, I had to get a job. Money ran out. So I learned the dry cleaning business on the GI Bill. Worked at different cleaners for 3 years. Got married and had 7 children. Got a job in St. Louis, McDonnell Aircraft. I've been busy. McDonnell Aircraft and plant, building jet fighter bombers for 7 years. Planes like the F-4 Phantom and the F-3H Demon and those others. Started in the real estate in St. Louis, had several rentals and apartments, took lots of vacations, then my wife left. Moved back to Quincy, got married again, had 3 more children. Wow. Anyhow, bought more rentals. Got in the painting business for over 50 years. Vahle Painting and Decorating. Have you heard of it? Vahle Painting and Decorating.
I believe I have.
I painted Vahle Painting and Decorating. We painted a lot of Blessing Hospital and all their houses, and also painted for the Quincy University and a lot of their houses on the outside, roofed some of them.
Yeah.
And my brother, my son, he knew how to roof, so we roofed also. And then, but anyhow, I was pretty active. So moved back to Quincy, got married. Got in the painting business for over 50 years, and Vahle Painting Decorating. Okay, I got you. Painted houses, factories, hospitals, churches. Sort of retired now, and since I've always been a pack rat, going to sell all my collectibles and move south to Florida with my oldest daughter, Jackie. Maybe help her in her nursing and real estate business. She did have 100 nurses working for her in Florida, but now she's only got one. I can't tell you about the politics and all, but it's all part of that.
Okay.
She lost a lot there. From 100 nurses, now only one.
Yeah.
And she's going out of business now, the end of this month. Back in Europe, I've had quite a few experiences over back in Europe, which maybe I could relate some to anyone who listens to this tape. I guess it's a tape or a disc. I did see my own Holocaust myself. You know what a Holocaust is?
Yes, sir.
And I remember it was in a small town in Germany. I came across a cement block building, approximately 15 feet wide, 30 feet long, no windows, only one door. And so I opened up the door to see about 15 or 12 to 15 people laying in a row on their backs. They had no clothes on. Men, women, and children, all three, had their bellies were bloated, like they've been gassed. So I guess that's like a gas chamber. One corner of the building was knocked out by possibly artillery shell. Blew dust all over the dead bodies. We came in there after they were dead. Mouse dry. One time, as our 99th troops were going through an open field, came across a train blown up by one of our planes. Now, several cars had prisoners in them. So, oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
So this train was stopped by, we blew it up. Anyhow, the cars had prisoners in them, and mostly U.S. soldiers. Some were captured during the Bulge. The guys were starving to death. The 99th saved them. These are different experiences now as I wrote this down throughout the years and put them in the drawer or something. Saw a buzz bomb. You've heard of that? I believe to be a V-1 rocket. Now this was the thundering over our heads and slowly coming from the German side and towards the Americans. It was really shaking the earth, boy, was it ever. It was as fat as a jetliner and very long. After passing over our heads, it went over a hill and then came a big blast. Don't know what it hit. So what they were aiming at. Those were the things that the Germans were throwing in England, you know, for a long time. I think it lasted a couple of years or more. They threw these big things that go by themselves. There's no pilot.
The bombing of England before
England,
before the American troops came.
Yeah, before the American troops got into the Fracas. Late at night, it's another one. Off in the distance, the Germans shot off V-2 rockets. That was their latest. Like a battery of shooting vertical rockets up in the night sky at a 45-degree angle, and then quickly out of sight, surely going over our heads and landing somewhere behind us. Never did see them after they once took off. You can see them taking off in the night, and then they disappear after so far. I don't know how high they went or how far they went, but that big one, the V-1, that landed right over the hill. Well, page 12. That's it.
All right.
I have many more stories to tell, both about my experiences during my Army times and stories of my life before and after. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for sharing.
About that.
All right. I have a few questions for you.
Sure.
We'll talk a little bit more about some of the things you saw too, okay?
Right.
What was your rank at time of discharge?
PFC, private first class.
Private first class? E2, E3? They distinguish that? Yeah. Okay. What, can you tell me about some of the medals that your unit received, that you received?
Yeah, they're in that box. I think they just brought them in.
Yeah.
I had a uniform. It's got a lot of them on too. I got a Bronze Star and see, I think I got 2 brown.
Did you want them up there? There's medals.
I think they've got copies of them. We'll be all right.
Oh,
There's a
okay.
lot of medals I don't want to.
She
Well,
brought.
they're in that little box there.
She brought them.
Let's see them. Thank you.
I would have brought my uniform, but I didn't know if you want that. That's got most everything on. When I was in Germany at the end, before we got on the ship to come back, they put all these things on. And those are what's left. I didn't go on my uniform.
How did you get along with your fellow soldiers and officers
Oh, we
in the
were great.
99?
Yeah, we got in the 99th, and it's not like what you see on TV. It's not the same. You know, they show this, what is he, a sergeant, a buck sergeant or something, and he looks right at them guys with great big hats, you know, that's in the movies, and really stares at them and talks mean. They didn't do that, nobody in all the outfit all the time we trained.
Yeah.
They just knew that we was gonna go to Germany, and they had trained us, you know, for that, not for being mean, you know, and cussing us out and whatever else.
Yeah.
So I did have my share of KP though, kitchen police, but then everyone had that. Kitchen police, that's where you had to peel potatoes and set the table, clean things, stuff like that. And that was kind of enjoyable. That was okay. I didn't mind.
Did you feel you had a lot of harrowing experiences? Did you feel a lot of stress at the time that you were there?
Well, there's a lot of stories I couldn't get in there. I just ran out of time. So yeah, this one time, here comes a, we were in a set of woods. Okay, that would be part of the 99, probably a company, and it's around 30 minutes. So then we went out in this big field, and we dug our foxholes. And so every time you go, wherever you go, as soon as you stop, you pull out the shovel and you start digging. If you only take one dig, you got that one dig in, and you had to go. Or you can dig the whole thing and maybe stay overnight. We stayed overnight in holes with 4 feet of snow, can you imagine? And either way, this was one of those that was bad. We came out of the woods, got all our foxholes dug, and then the kitchen truck dared to come up. That's a rarity, a kitchen truck coming up with a big trailer on the back, and that's with the refrigerator and the food and all that stuff. And so they planted it right in the middle of the field between all of us and our foxholes. They were all dug and ready to go. The line of guys, about 12 or 15 were in line to eat. It wasn't my turn yet because, well, anyhow, over in the woods, nobody checked the woods out. There was a German artillery spotter, I guess. He must have been in the woods and nobody checked it out because just as those guys were in line, here comes an artillery shell. Whistled over their trees, and where did it hit? Dead center, right in the truck and trailer with all the guys right there. That's why I'm still here, and those guys aren't because it wasn't my turn to eat yet. I just so anyhow, there was no way to go over there and see what happened. All we knew is just to dive for the nearest hole. I wasn't near my foxhole, and so there was a shell hole from a previous shelling, and I dove into that. But it's like a bowl, not much protection. But it lasted for a while the artillery shell came over, hit in front of us, hit in the back. The rest of them I don't know. But my hole was in front of us and behind me. It didn't last. That's why I'm still here.
Yeah.
But you know, that's where we prayed. You're down in the bottom of your hole and you're praying. You know, so, but either way, now there must have been a lot of guys that were killed, and then we lost 5,000 men altogether actually in the Bulge, just the 99. And I think 19,000 men altogether in the Battle of the Bulge, and all the U.S. troops got killed. Then there's the ones that got, blown up, got injured, you know, and some of them just disappeared while they was blown up, or they run away. We didn't have too much trouble except this one guy that ran away. So anyhow, that was that. But then when the shelling stopped, I decided I got to get into my foxhole, which is a ways away. We was just kind of walking around. So I ran over there and dove in, and right as soon as I did, here comes the shells again, in front of me and behind me. It never landed in the hole. Well, I wouldn't be able to tell you if it did, but still, there was another time when I was in these woods, and here comes the lone German plane coming down the road from my left. He was about 100 feet up, just over the treetops. And he was come over the hill, and he went down that road, probably looking for vehicles to bomb, whatever. And he went on down, went out of sight behind these trees that we were in. And then just like that, he must have made a 90-degree turn, and he came back. So then when he got even with where I was, he made another 90, right straight towards me. And there he was, and here I am with my little rifle and him with his big guns. I thought, I'm going to hide behind this tree. First, I took an aim at him, and I could have hit him, I'm sure, but then, you know, he would have seen me. So I ducked behind a tree, and he went over my head, went around over the trees, made another 90, and then come back over to my left and over to the road again, and then back over the same road he came from over the hill. But by that time, we had anti-aircraft guns there, sitting on top of the hill. First time they missed him coming down, but coming back they could see the way he went, and he come right over top of him, and the plane just blew apart, and the German jumped out with his parachute in behind us somewhere. That's some of those things that you still remember, the more important things. There was quite a few other things, but I didn't have time to write them down. See, I wrote those down as I went through life in all these little notes. So I had a whole drawer full. More than one person said, you should be able to write a book. I can't write a book. I can only pull out the notes and, you know, I can put those down on here. But I can't fill in all those, you know, ifs, ands, and buts. So there's some of my buddies in the area. They're all gone now, but they wrote some books, and I've got theirs. Was there another question?
Yeah, did you stay in touch with your family while you were in the
All-
war, more or less, while you were in Europe?
in Texas all the time, and mostly in Europe. Whenever I had a chance to write, I would write a letter back to mom and dad, anybody else that wrote me, mostly mom and dad. And so I've got probably 120 or so letters, and I've still got, there's a lot of them in that box there, about 10 of them, and the rest are home. I've never really read all of them yet, but the ones that are very interesting. Now, we couldn't do anything anywhere near the Bulge or in that time. So when I finally had a chance to write, it was dated, I think, 8 or 10 days after the start, December 16th. I think it was right at the end of December. I wrote a letter when I was able to and said, Mom, I look like, and you can't say that nowadays, an African American, but we spelled it out just like we used to. Anyhow, I said I look just like that. I haven't shaven and black, you know, and I'm a mess. But, you know, we still had the rest of the Bulge to go through, but I managed to get that letter. But every one of the letters are signed by a Kennedy. There's a Robert Kennedy. They have to check through the whole letter, make sure we said nothing that was important, and then he stamps it. Now some went through as a V-mail. They copied that onto a small letter, like, and it's they call it a V-mail. So I got some of those.
Okay.
But the thing what is, most of them weren't V-mail because I was a collector, as you can see. I've got probably got about 200,000 stamps altogether. Over in Germany, I collected every stamp that I could find. Some guy found 11 albums, plumb full. And they would have been classified as loot if I sent them home that way. So what did I do? Every stamp I pulled out of there, the thousands, and stuck them on my letters inside the envelope and sent them home. And that's what my mom saved, plus coins.
Lots of coins, yeah.
So I collected everything I could. Went into a bank one time, money all over the floor. And some German said, you know, he's just walking all over it. And some guy said something about Geld, you know. I said, I had nichts mehr gut, you know, we're not going to use that anymore, or you're not. But some of it was still usable, but most of it was that inflationary money. I got stacks of that, lots of it's still new. And anything else you need to know? Or
Did you learn German while you were there, the German language?
Yeah. It feels Deutschsprechen. I'm forgetting some, but yeah, I can still speak some yet.
Yeah.
I spoke a little Polish, French, Yeah, I'm kind of forgetting most of that French because I didn't stay in France very long. We went from France to Belgium right away within 2 months of finishing up France. And Belgium's where we were most of the time, it seemed like. And the Germans knew, I guess, that we were too close to their border. Nobody was in Germany yet when the Bulge hit. And so that's when we finished that up and then went across the Rhine River. That's the only bridge that was left. They had explosives already on the bridge, but they couldn't blow them up yet. They had, I think, a couple thousand or more of their men still on our side. But the 99th was coming fast to the bridge. They knew it was there, it was still left. And we managed to get there before they set the explosives off. And I don't know if they ever got all their men over or not. And so, and we actually crossed though on a pontoon bridge next to the bridge that the our engineers put up. And the rest of the guys went over the bridge. But after 3 days, that bridge fell in because of all the tanks and everything and their explosives or their artillery or whatever trying to blow it up. And so they finally, it fell in 3 days later. But we went across the pontoon bridge, we were safe anyhow. So, but then after that, we went on to the rear pocket. Was that answering your question or am I on to something else?
You're doing fine. Did you carry anything with you for good luck? You said you were a collector. Did you take anything from home with you over there?
You know, I don't think I did. You know, the only thing I've ever carried for good luck, that goes on to another story. I was in the hospital since I had a painting business and had my kids all working for me. And that was a big stress. One of the times I was in Blessing, my daughter gave me this here. That's after the war, and after I came back home. She gave me this. It says on there, Guardian Angel. And I think it might have worked, except for the fact that I was in the hospital a lot of times. Not just to paint it, but I had 2 heart attacks, 2 stents each. Then within 2 years apart, and the next one 2 years apart was the double bypass. And then before that, I had a stroke in 2000. 2002 and 4 was the stroke, it was the heart attacks. 100% closed in one of them, just barely made that. And then a double bypass, that was a tough one. So then I went on to another stroke later on. But I think I'm okay now. I'm doing pretty good. I kind of retired. My kids are off, you know, somewhere else.
Yeah.
So I'm doing pretty good. Did I answer your question? I forgot what question was.
Quite all right. You're doing fine. Whenever you were at the Battle of Bulge, or fighting in the Battle of the Bulge, how were your supplies at that time?
Never any problem.
Never a problem with
Never a
supplies?
problem. No, there was a lot of divisions coming up through France. And yeah, I read that in a book one time. Boy, they had stacks and stacks of all the bridge stuff to build bridges over the rivers and all the artillery. It's in one of those books I read that once in a while.
Yes, sir.
But yeah, we never had any problem with that.
What kind of food did you have?
Matter of fact, I'll tell you one thing. Well, we must have been so okay with whatever we had in the way of artillery, our shells for our bazooka, that we found these 2 big hills in Germany. You know, they're noted for beer. And so
Yes,
we
sir.
walked down through between those hills. There's a path or a road or something. And we opened up one of those big heavy doors, and inside was a barrels of beer, fresh beer. I never drink beer, but I had to try it. So
Yeah.
the guys filled up their canteen cups, you know, and put them on their belt. And then, but me, no, I didn't like beer, but I still, there was, somewhere along the way there was wine also, bottles of wine. What I did, I took my bazooka shells out, a couple of them, and put a couple of bottles of wine in there. And so I never drank it, but I sold it, you know, for Americans and money.
Yeah.
And so we did a lot of bartering, you know, what do you call it, black market or something? That we sold a lot of cigarettes. You know, I had half a barracks bag. We were allowed like a carton of cigarettes per week. And then, you know, I never did smoke, so I filled that barracks bag, it was up full. We still had the truck, so, you know, I was able to do that. Most guys weren't. So I had this barracks bag full. At the end of the war, somebody said, I can get you $10 for a carton of that. sell it to the Germans somewhere back there.
Yeah.
So I did. I gave it to him, and right after that, somebody said, "Hey, I can get you $20 for a card." So I started collecting up some more. But you know, where was that compared to your question? I'm off of that. I got a lot of stories, I tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Marilyn knows.
Fine.
People get on the phone with me, and I don't stop. But then when they do that, though, I think my mom and dad. Oh, I wish they was around. I wish I could call them. You know, you're gonna think of me. Your mom and dad still around yet?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, you're lucky. I lost mine in 65, 69. Both of them died in 65, 9. My dad was 16. I get this straight. They both died in 65. Well, anyhow, I was in the 60s. They both died, and it was in the same year. But I wish, you know, my kids would now think of me like I think of them now. But, you know, they got to grow older first. So I just not going to.
Yeah, I understand.
And then I think, well, did I think about my folks when I was that young? Probably not.
Yeah.
I don't know. Got any more questions there?
Do you still talk to any of the men you served with, or did you through the years maintain relationships with them?
Yeah, we had what you call reunion. We had 60 some, but you know, being so busy, I could only go to about 10, I guess. A couple of them in Pittsburgh, went to Orlando, Florida, went to Colorado. What's the name of that town where they have the planes? Dayton, Ohio. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyhow, I went there for one, but there was about 10 altogether, so I missed out on a lot.
Yeah.
I just, but I did write to this one of them that I had fun with in Texas when we were training. He was in another part of the outfit, but I saw him later and went to his town. And so we talked and did different things. He had that leg off, so he was limited. And then I got to thinking, well, my goodness, that could have been my bazooka, you know? But yeah, that one. And then there's the last one that I know, the rest are all gone. We had a mini reunion of 10 guys, and they're all gone. But the one that I still was writing to up until this last year, he lives in Wapakoneta. It's a town in Ohio that one of the space guys must have grown up, made the town famous. Anyhow, yeah, he was writing. I went out there to see him, he and his wife. And later on, his wife went to a nursing home, and then she passed away and left him and his little dog. So then we wrote for a couple of years after that. Last year, I didn't get anything. So that's probably the last one.
What was his name?
I always remember that one any other time.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
Yeah, I'll remember it after a while. It always comes back.
Okay. I think I saw in your paperwork that you brought that you did go back to Europe
No.
after the service.
No, never did.
No, that was just a reunion.
Yeah,
that
the
you spoke
paper
about a
too.
moment ago, yeah.
There's some
Okay,
paper, but
I guess-
but I didn't go to that. You would have had to have a lot less kids and more money.
Did you join any service organizations after the service?
Just the VFW, American Legion.
Yeah.
Those.
Did you remain active in those at this time?
You know, I don't drink beer.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's what the guys went there for, to drink beer and talk and meet the ladies. So I didn't care about the ladies and I didn't care about the beer. So I was just a busy man, just for, you know, doing my work. 50 years of painting, and I could, you know, tear the half of this building off and I could rebuild it up again. That's what I've learned. I had a lot of apartments, owned a bunch of them here in Quincy, 2 of them right here on 8th Street. And I lived in one of them for about 12, 13 years when I really fixed them up. Lived in St. Louis when I worked at that aircraft plant. Had a bunch of houses and buildings down there. And then that's when the wife left. I sold it all or gave it all back, moved back to Quincy. That's when I started in the painting and house business here. But that really kept me busy. But I never did go back over there. I didn't have time. Wanted to, but then, I don't know, it didn't seem that important.
You said that you mentioned briefly that you came upon a POW camp In Germany?
The train. Yeah, I think that was in my.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we were out in this field, just coming out into it, and there's the train sitting out there in the open on the track. One of our planes had knocked out the engine, probably knowing that there's, be prisoners of war, so they didn't blow up the boxcars. Boxcars were all full of prisoners. Some of them were from the 99th U, from the Battle of the Bulge. This would have been after that then. So yeah, they were kind of starving, and so they're probably pretty happy to see us. I was happy I wasn't, captured.
Yeah.
I don't know how long that they were prisoners. We didn't really talk to them that much. It's our job to get and go.
Yeah.
Same way, like one morning, since we had the truck, we pulled our truck, we had shelled over top, the artillery company shelled over top of us overnight. And the next morning, we had to go over there and pick up the dead Germans. And so one of them, he had his head gone, except a little piece left right here. And this one arm was gone. I just kicked that in the hole. And we threw the body into the truck with all the rest of them. And that was all before breakfast. But anyway, yeah, that's one of the many experiences I had. What was the question before that? See, I got a lot of fingers and toes, and these stories that I've got, they just keep running off. Then I have to go back to the original. So what was I talking about to start with? What did you ask?
Yeah. It's all right. I enjoy listening to you, so I kind of just let you go and not worry about what my question was.
Okay, there you go. As long as you got the time, I got the time. Kind of retired. I've got a lot of collectibles. I'm a pack rat. I've collected everything and anything that somebody said might be worth some money sometime. And what do I collect? They said records are going to be worth some money. Well, I got about 10,000 records. I got a lot of the Beatles and Elvis and all those. They're all stored away somewhere.
Yeah.
Then I got about, I'd say around 200,000 stamps. Probably many thousands are from Germany. Whenever I'd pick them up, I'd stick them in an envelope and ship them to my mom. She saved them. Then there's coins. I don't know how many coins I got left. But then there's baseball cards. If you know anybody that buys baseball cards, I got about 40 or 50,000 of them.
Wow.
They're all kind of sports cards, and they're all in tubs and boxes and drawers, and they're all over my house. And I had to finally stop going to my favorite place to go, the auctions and yard sale, because I have no more storage. So I don't know. I'm still wanting to sell something or give it away or something.
Are you ready to start having auctions and sales of your own?
I had one, yeah.
Yeah.
My daughter had one of them, but in a yard sale, you don't sell probably even half. And that means you got to take all the stuff back, box it up, and put it away somewhere if you wanted to keep it. If you didn't, you have to give it away. So who would take it, So
Yeah.
that was only one.
I think you might get some takers on the stamps and the baseball cards and the
Yeah.
collectibles you have.
Here's the thing, there's nobody honest, real honest when
Yeah.
it comes to cards and coins. I've took some things. I managed to get a gold watch, a wristwatch that I bought in service, and it's on one of my letters that says that I finally paid off my watch as I was going through service and paid. And then when I got it after service, I was home wearing it. Finally, just lately, not too long ago, I took it to an eBay guy. He doesn't even acknowledge I was there. The watch is solid gold with 21 jewels, I think. So that's a problem. I tried the yard sale, and I tried to sell my records. Okay, here comes the guy that collects records. He'll thumb through them, and he'll find the one that's the most expensive. And I didn't know that. They're probably worth a lot of money. They have some writings in there that tells about the artist. And look what I found, and you take it out, give me 50 cents. Who knows what it's for? Who knows what my cards are worth? I don't even know what I have. That's my problem.
Okay. How did your service experiences affect your life?
Well, one thing I can remember I still do. And that's, I don't know if anybody else does it, but I fold up my socks like 3 times, 2 times, whatever, and I put them in the drawer just like that with the colors and everything, the tan, the blacks, the whatever colors. I still put them in my drawers ever since then. That's the only thing I can remember. I don't know anything else. That's not important, but
Something that stuck with you
Yeah, it just.
You did that in the service and you still do it today.
Yeah.
And that's where you learn.
Yeah, it just happens. I don't even think about it. I just fold them up when I do the laundry and go.
Did your experience in Europe influence your thinking about war or military in general?
I thought about joining some years later. I thought about joining the what do you call that? They're based at home before
The
they-
reserves or the National Guard?
National Guard. Yeah, I even painted the building down there.
Yeah.
On 3rd or 4th Street on the highway, but no, the people thought I might be a little bit old for that. So I never did do that. And I shouldn't have any already had kids.
Would you encourage young men and women to enlist today?
Yeah, but not in the Army or the Marines, not them. They're the ones that's right there in the front. They're the ones with the rifle, and whoever sees who first has got the gun ready first, that's the ones that either lives or dies.
So
Me,
you would, yeah.
I was in the truck in any tank. So we shot the big guns, which was close by. Sometimes we were the bazooka men, of course, me and my buddy. So we got from the rest of the team, and we go with the rifle troops. We heard some tanks one time, or the rest of the troops there said there was tanks in the weeds out there, so they call us in with them because they have nothing there to knock out a tank. So, but anyhow.
So you would say that you were on the second line. The front
Well-
line was the soldiers generally, and you were in the tanks right
Yeah.
behind, but you would come up, or not in the tanks, but the trucks right behind, and you would come up with them at times
Yeah,
and
but-
assist them.
Yeah. Well, we was there with them most of the time, right there, but still, they're the ones gets killed because they're the ones with the rifle first. And since we had the big gun, we had our own rifles, but you don't need those so much as the big gun. If the tank gets by the guys in the front, then that's what we're for. But at the same time, we're not like the artillery. The artillery's in the back.
Correct.
They're the ones shoots over heads. Everybody's in them.
Mhm.
And then they got a chance to be killed too, because then as soon as they shoot their guns, their artillery over, they know where we are. So they shoot back. They have their own foxholes and their own big gun holes. And whenever they shoot theirs, they run for their foxholes and hide. And then they run back over when the Germans get done and they shoot theirs forward. So it's like a game, but people can get killed that way. But
Did you meet a lot of French, Belgium, German people or soldiers that you may have fought with or come in contact with?
yeah, several there. I'll tell you about the bad one first. Well, it wasn't bad. It's after we got up with the troops with our bazookas because they heard tanks in the weeds, and the time we got through, they were gone. And then we went up that road to the house, and then when we were stationed in that house, a farmhouse, there's two of them together. And when we went in there, our outfit, 10 men in the squad, one truck, one gun, 10 men. So we took over this house, and in the evening, the Germans knew we were in there. And their farmhouses are V-shaped, at an angle, 90-degree angle. The barns off to the side, the big barns, and it's connected to the house. Well, the Germans knew they were out in the woods up in the hill somewhere. They knew we was there, so they shot a mortar and hit the barn and set it on fire. So what are we going to do? It's all going to burn down. Nobody's going to put it out. So then the story goes, we left there and had to go out the front door to the road, went up to the next house, and then stayed there overnight. That was all for that, that they threw at us. And the next morning, coming down the hill from where the Germans were, there was two Russians. And they came down and they said they were prisoners of the SS. That's the worst Germans, SS men, up in the hills there somewhere. And so they grabbed me and gave me a big kiss on the cheek, and so happy, that we had rescued them from the Germans. And that was one experience. And then right after that come all our troops then, down the road, the tanks and the men passing us. We were in the front first. But anyhow, the next ones, I knew a bunch of them. Yeah, I got it in one of my letters. So if you read them letters, you get a lot of experiences. So anyhow, we went into this Belgian house, and there were several people in there, and they invited us in, and we was talking, and they speak German and French. We spoke English. So then I mentioned in this letter that, and I can't remember that thing, myself, but it was in one of my letters later. So here we are trying to talk back and forth, and they had jellies and jams and things like that that they could still have in their house, and after the Germans were pushed out. And so that's what we had to eat. We'd all sit around the table, and then in that letter it says how much fun we were having, trying to use the sign language, trying to figure out who we are and experiences and everything. So that was kind of fun. I just read that letter not too long ago. There's a lot of letters that I haven't read myself yet.
Yeah.
But I can't think of any other experiences. I'm sure I did. Yeah, up in the hills in what do they call that? In the southern part of Germany, Bavaria.
Okay.
We got into the Bavarian hills, and there's some caves up there. The people all left the houses and out of town because we were there, taking over the town. So then here's this little bitty lady. I guess they're sharp people from Bavaria. And there's this big guy in our outfit. His name was Jerry Sierpinski. I remember his name. Yeah, he was real tall. And she was real short, like a kid or a midget or something. And they were standing there talking. I don't know how they got by with the talking, but I still remember I got the picture of that one. That's why I remembered. Anything else, it would have to just gradually come to me right after reading the letters.
Yeah.
Do you girls ever have any questions, or you just listening?
I thought your stories were really interesting.
Thanks. Yeah, I can still remember a lot, but a lot of it's on these little notes and pages, and they're in drawers all over my house. And so I can still, well, matter of fact, I had to pull them out to be able to write this thing.
Mhm.
My eyes water a lot, so I'm sensitive. So do you have any questions outside of that one?
Is your view of government the same before and after your time in the service?
The government? Now?
Government in general, I suppose.
Or before?
Yeah.
Well, you know what it's like now. That's the worst. I tell you, I don't know if you can say that, but yeah, that's got to be the worst. But yeah, the government before that, Eisenhower was our big boss over there. He's a 5-star general, and he was really good at his job. Except one thing he should have done: he should have known that Bulge was coming, and it says it in books too. Somebody should have known. Eisenhower, being the big boss, the book stops here, and so he should have known. And the other guys even mentioned, different things. But yeah, the government, well, my daughter, she lost her nursing business. She started herself in Florida and had 100 nurses, she and her husband. And imagine they send them out to different homes. And now she only has one. And a few months ago, she said she was down to 50, and now she says one, and she's already given the state the fact that she's going out. So, and me, that's when my painting business stopped too in 09. I was still very active yet, as much as I could be. My knees weren't out, but otherwise I could still go up the ladders and do things. And I used to paint for Blessing and all the university. In 09, the second half of 09 is when I went out. I've been even getting any calls, but 2 just that 1 year. So, but anyhow, outside of that part of the government, everything else before that, well, I've seen a lot, but I've never really voted or was into voting because I didn't really know the person. If I don't know the person personally or that they're really good in any which way, then I best I didn't vote. Because I might vote for the wrong person.
Mhm.
So, well, outside the government, my dad paid more attention to that, I think I remember. It's like he paid attention to the boxing, on the radio. Didn't have TVs then.
Yeah.
But I still remember Joe Louis and all them, left to the chin and the right to the face.
Can you tell us a little bit about some of these medals that we have here?
Yeah, that's. The rest
This
of
is
them are all in
the
my
Eastern Campaign Medal.
Yeah, this was probably the main one.
Hmm.
This was, I got the ribbon on my uniform. If the ribbons are gone, I got it on my uniform. It's a night jacket. You know what a night jacket is?
No, sir.
Eisenhower, it's a short belt. Bottom of the jacket comes around the belt here. And same thing as Eisenhower wore. But anyway, this is the one that says it goes through all of the war in Europe. It's for all of it. And so then on here is 3 stars, which means that those are for the major battles.
So,
Battle of the Bulge, Battle of the River Pocket, where we captured a complete division, our division, and the other one's for Central Europe. So that's what that one is for.
Did they give those to you when you got back here, or did you have a ceremony or something?
These particular ones in that box came later. My uniform already had quite a few they put on. I've got the French 4-gear rope, and then the Belgian 4-gear. Then later on I found out we were eligible for our part, the 99th, eligible for the boats part, or we're just Central Belgium. So the leader of Belgium gave us another rope. Well, a citation. They can't give you 2 ropes on one shoulder. So, what was the question again?
Did you get those when you got back here?
No, like I say, then somebody said at one of the reunions, after they put everything on it in Germany. I never saw them put it on, but they gave it to me. They gave me the ropes. They gave me, we had the presidential citation, and that's a special little thing with the whatever. And then all the other things were all put on there when I was over there. Then later on, they said, citations are given out as they figured the war, the war's ended, and they got together and figured out who was where and what. And so then I sent to St. Louis. That's where they said to send it. The names on there, where it came from. And so they were all in there. I didn't have a chance to put them on because the uniform is really thick. I tried to put, take that pin loose, and I couldn't even get it off. It's the one that holds the bar. It's a bar like and holds the ribbons. And then I should have brought it, I guess, but I didn't think. But anyhow, then they sent me all these. And then later on, I found out about the Belgian 4-gear, and I saw it in the paper somewhere, so I cut that out.
you have the American Campaign Medal.
Yeah, that's for just training here in America.
Okay.
Yeah, it was all over Texas and Camp Olders and Camp Maxey.
That's the German Occupation Medal. You were there post the end of the war.
Yeah, I don't know if I finished that story on that one. When we were put in the 1st Division, we were supposed to go fight in Japan because they were still going yet. And so when they gave up, then we were in the 1st Division yet in Army of Occupation for about the next year, till the time in 1946 when I went back home.
What was the mood like after the war in Germany for you? And you may have come in contact with the German citizenship at that time.
Yeah, well, we were MPs for about a year, had some troubles. One time, would you believe there was 80,000 in one of my letters? There was 80,000 Germans still holed up somewhere, so they sent us out. That's all I got in my letter. What happened to the 80,000, I don't know, but it was illegal for the Germans to have that. But as far as the people, I like kids, I guess maybe that's where I got to liking kids. That's why I had so many. Yeah, they would come up to me and they'd say, "Was ist dein Name?" I said, my Name is Putzi. I don't know where I got Putzi. So, Putzi, yeah, okay. I think I gave that up later because I don't know what that means. It must be German or something. But, that's where I got to talking mostly to the kids. And the people, I don't know, they're still maybe angry or maybe glad that the war is over, I would say they should be more glad than angry because if Hitler hadn't done this, their country was, you ought to see the pictures I've got in there. I blew up one. It was Berlin, and it was just flat. It was just mangled steel and bricks all over, just like most of the buildings. In Nuremberg, I went through there once, and the buildings were the outside, the edge of the town was big apartment buildings, I guess. They were all burned out inside, just the shells were left yet. So we went on down inside the Nuremberg, and even though there's a lot of people, I really didn't talk to them that much. That wasn't my job. I didn't know how to speak the German just so much, the language. But mentioning that, it was another story going inside of Nuremberg. That was Hitler's playground, Nuremberg. And that's where they had the Nuremberg trials. You've probably heard of them.
Yes, sir.
So one of my buddies, he was that wrote that book that I had there. He was one of them that was the MP or whatever it was, the guard inside the courthouse. But when we went in town, our whole division came inside the city, and after we knew it was okay, then we parked it all along the curbings downtown, and all the guys, a lot of them got out, but there still would be some in there to guard the truck. So what happens? Here comes a German plane. I guess he thought we didn't take over Nuremberg yet. He was flying right over top our heads. He didn't shoot or anything, but what happened? German plane. Here our tanks are. Every one of them's got a 50 caliber machine gun.
Yeah.
And every Jeep and all of them just let go one time. It just blew apart. I never saw the pilot jump out, so I guess he didn't make it. But that other one did, the one I was telling you about in the woods.
Yes, sir.
But I drink a lot of water.
Yeah,
That
that's
takes
good.
the place of beer and whiskey and all that bad stuff,
Efficiency, honor, fidelity. Can you tell us about this one?
Oh, that's a good conduct medal. That's the most important one. If you can be good for the first year, you get one of these. Not everybody can do that. A lot of them, they just left or they was bad or something. That's the one that has my name on the back. Eugene W. Vahle. Actually, everybody calls me Gene. I'm known as Gene. Eugene is just for official stuff. But if you can get one of those, you're a good boy. I didn't feel like running off. I just did my duty.
This is a World War II medal.
Which,
This one. There you go.
yeah, I still got the ribbon yet. It's not on my uniform yet. Then, what does it say?
World War II.
Should be on the cover too,
Middle
maybe.
back.
Yeah, United States of America, freedom. This is, my goodness, freedom of speech and religion. I can still read, no glasses. I can read the finest print without glasses. So, now what do you call that? It would be on the lid. I'm not sure. I think one of them.
There's ones that didn't have
See,
them.
if it's not on the edge, then it would be on the top. Freedom.
I believe it's the World War II medal.
Well, yeah, they're all World War II.
Well,
Yeah.
campaign,
But
World War II campaign medal.
Yeah,
No?
I'm not sure. That one was for all of Europe.
Mhm.
This one here, dang, I would have had the, is there any of them there that has it on the top? On the lid?
Just the one. David, it was this one. The
Just,
European African medal. That's the Eastern medal, Eastern campaign medal.
yeah, that's for all of
Okay.
Europe. Well, anyway,
What is the
Yeah.
most positive thing you can take away from your experience?
that there, sharpshooter.
Sharpshooter badge.
Yeah.
That's a rifle badge, right?
Yeah, that was for the small rifle, the same caliber, 30 caliber.
Mhm.
And there's, anyhow, you asked another question?
What is the most positive thing you can take away from your experience in the service?
Positive thing that I can take away. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
That I could take away?
Yeah, thinking back on all of it.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Well, they had some bad leader over there, and we just need a better leader all the time over here. If it's not for the leader, then the country's gonna go to the dogs, or it's gonna be excellent. We've had some excellent presidents, and we have some not so good. But when you're over there, you wonder, why? Why did Hitler start this? I know the people were kind of starving from the First World War, and I think then he went to jail for a long time. He wrote a book, and he got people to believe in him that he can make Germany rise again and maybe take over everybody else's place. That's the reason wars start at all. They want something that somebody else has got next door, and then they're just going to try to take it away from them. Well, Hitler, he knew how to talk. And, you know, if you're a good president, I mean, if you're a president who knows how to talk, well, I won't go any farther than that one. But either way, I think, I was glad I was in service now, but not at the time, of course. Because you're there and you can get killed anytime.
All those places you went and all those things you did, you never received an injury.
No.
Not one scar,
No,
anything.
I don't
That's
think.
amazing.
Yeah, well, I just ducked, I guess, at the right time. I dug my foxhole deep enough.
Yeah. You landed in the right
Yeah,
shell
well,
hole.
somebody has to come back, and I was one of the lucky ones. You know, this time when I came out of the woods, our outfit was in the woods. Okay, here comes some volunteer. I don't think I volunteered for this one, but we were across this open field. Over there, some more woods and pillboxes. And the pillboxes, I guess that's part of that Siegfried line. So anyhow, we took over those pillboxes, and then we had to destroy them so the Germans would not get back in. So what they do, they picked me. Maybe I looked like I don't know, Iron Man, but they gave me this big box. And you know what that was full of? Dynamite. These square blocks of dynamite, not dynamite. What's the next one much higher?
Like C4,
Nitroglycerin.
nitroglycerin.
Yeah, cases of a whole case. And here I am going across this open field. You hear the bullets, you know, winging through the woods and across the openings. Well, and one thing I can remember, I hope that, you know, one of the bullets don't hit this thing. I never know about it.
Yeah.
But that was a little tough thinking about that. I wouldn't want to do that again. But, you know, most everything kind of comes back. And I would never go into war, and I would never let one of my kids go in now. Some of them had been in the Army, but don't let anybody go in the Army or the Marines. They're the same. People really praise the Marines, you know, because of the name or something. I don't know. They go over and take over all the beaches in Asia. There was no Marines in Europe. We did the beaches all. That's just Army, and the Navy, of course, was behind them with the big ships and guns and everything. So, but if I had any more kids or knew anybody like my grandkids, I'd tell them, don't go in the Army or the Marines, because you're the one with the gun right there in the front where the Germans are with the gun. That's whoever sees who first and is able to be a good shot first or whatever. But if they go in the Navy, well, you're out on the ship. You're pretty well protected unless they sink the ship. And what's the chances of that, you know, if there's no big war going on, you know? But then there's the Air Force. Well, the Air Force is pretty bad in the war too, because those big bombers had to go all the way over in central Germany. And, you know, some of them were knocked down.
Oh, yeah.
And they would land right in German territory. So I would, but either way, that's not as bad as being the Marine or an Army. They're the same, and it's very dangerous.
So the most negative thing you would take away from the service?
The most negative I would take away, is that getting back to the original question now?
We started
Okay,
with positive and we veered off that way. But
You see, I got these fingers and all these stories, they just keep running off. But that I would take away, well, just probably the whole war experience to start with, I guess. Just shouldn't be a war. You know, why should there be a war? Just people just want something that somebody else wants or has. So I don't know anything else. So I just hope there's no more wars. When this one's over with over there, I hope it's the end of that one, Iraq and Afghanistan. That should never be, you know. But I'm glad I wasn't over there. But anyway, was that the end of the sheet? You got a lot of sheets too there.
I do.
Almost as many as I got. Oh, I could have filled up this book. I had a whole lot more, but I ran out of time. I stayed up late last night and the night before, and finally I called it quits. That was nice enough. Because I thought you guys are going to be here while I'm here trying to say that those things and whatever. But a lot of it's in that box over there. Did she bring the whole box back, Marilyn?
Yeah,
The whole box? She didn't copy all those.
yeah.
I'm sure. All those letters. I just picked out the ones that said the best things in there that, you know, my brother being in Alaska and the Aleutian Islands during War II, I got a couple of his letters. And whatever else is in the letters might be important, but I got documents. One document I got, I can tell you about, and maybe I mentioned it to you a while ago, but it's all the cities that I went through from start to finish, going through France and Belgium, and a little part of Holland, they called it then, Newfoundland or no. Anyhow, then all through Germany, all the way through, went in across the Rhine River, and went through the river pocket, and we went south, went and joined Patton down in the south, and we went in Austria, and I got all those little towns all listed, and then there's also a diary. I don't know if I put that in there, but if you find it, I would be the only one that would have that. Same way with all the little towns, whoever else would do that.
So you kept a diary the whole time?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's only a short one, some things like certain things. One of them always comes to my mind is the kids in Germany. They didn't have anything to eat, and the people, nothing to eat. They would come out to us with anything they could hold, a pan or bowl or something, and ask us for some leftovers. Well, sometimes we did, but we're not supposed to. You know how Americans are, they're softies like me. But anyhow, then there's the kids, and they will dig down into these big garbage barrels that we throw our leftover food, and they'll dig in like a pork chop or a bean or so and put it on their plate and take it back home. No, that's something that really shouldn't be, you know. Is that part of the question? Did I go off on another finger? I like your smile. You were still with me.
Yes, sir. I am.
Go ahead.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Well, I don't know of anything right now.
Yeah.
I just have a lot of stories, and I thought maybe sometime if somebody's going to write a book. But see, since I didn't go to all the conventions, or even half of, probably only 10 out of the 60-some conventions that we had, and there was just no way to go to all of them. I didn't have the money or the time. And anyhow, there was where the book writers started. The book writers, they would be there, and I didn't know that they were going to write books, any of them. The last one was this guy in California, and I think I got his book there, and we talked a bit back and forth. But you know, I don't know. What was that finger again? What was the question? I got so many. While they're still here, I can still tell people. But I really didn't know that there was going to be book writers in those reunions. I would have gone more often. I could have shown them, you know, I took the pictures. I still have them. I even made them bigger and sent them to my grandkids or my whoever's interested.
Yeah.
And so I try to pass things around as much as I can. But I did have a little diary. It told different things like that food bit. And I can't think of the rest of it. It's just where we've been. You can't really do that. You can't put it in letters. You can't even carry it on you. But I did.
Yeah.
Because they said if the Germans catch you, they'll just kill you.
Mhm.
You're not supposed to have anything from them, even their letters or whatever. Or, what do you call it, diary. I just did the best I could while I was there and took up my time. Doing that is like a pastime too. Once in a while we would stop, you know, and we'd eat something together. We'd have these little cans of beans, you know, and put it in the fire, or we'd make food in all kinds of ways. It's a rarity to have food. So if you see me in any of my pictures, you'll see the pockets like this. That's like K rations or C ration, not C, that's the cans. But there's other kinds of ration, like a candy bar. The whole bar is all chocolate, real thick, and about so big, and that's got the full vitamins of a whole turkey meal, a Thanksgiving meal, all in one chocolate bar. So you'll see one of them maybe in there, and maybe something else over here. So that's how we live. You can see what happened when the kitchen came up one time. You got out there in the middle of the field, thought it was safe. The first shell comes in, they had it, knocked it out. And another time I was really hungry, and the kitchen came up, and he stopped in the woods. I was so hungry, I kept going back until I counted 14 pancakes I ate that morning. I wasn't hungry for a while after that. But and then they have like the jelly like in a bottle or whatever, and it comes out like juice. So what would that be? just like a melted jelly, or, it was something you just pour on. I guess that's the best way.
Okay.
And for eggs, we have what you call blackout eggs. And that's powder. They make eggs into powder somehow. And then they can put the water back into it and fry it that way. It's like tasting an egg. Same way with milk. They make milk into powder. And then that way we have powdered milk, which you put water back in, and then it's milk again.
Right.
So that always works. So we didn't really starve. We had plenty to eat, but they said at one time half of our casualties, maybe they were stretching it, but half of our casualties were trench foot. You walk through the water and there's no way to dry your feet. You might have your shoes and socks on for days before you can ever get socks from somebody and be able to change them anyhow, because nobody's going to come up where we are just to get a pair of socks.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you talked about the amount of snow that you were in the Battle of the
There-
Bulge, and
there-
did you any frostbite? Trench foot is
yeah,
similar, right?
that was the big thing. Yeah, trench foot and frostbites and the big thing. The guys that get, you're living in holes. You can't, do your day's duty, whatever you're doing, and then you go walk in the house and mom and dad or your brother, sister, wife, whatever, is all in there and it's nice and warm. You're going, we didn't have any beds. You dug a hole like 5 feet deep was, just wide enough or big enough to get in. And that's where you stay. It doesn't matter how much snow or ice or water that comes down. But being in our outfit, we managed to live in a house once in a while. We did have a house. But one time the shell came right through, great big shell, came right through the outside wall. It must have gone between the two bys, the rafters, and went all the way through, so it didn't explode. Went all the way through and hit the wall over here, and it buried itself right there. It didn't go off. I guess it didn't have enough push anymore to set it off. But yeah, now one time they said that Germany had their worst winter in 100 years or so. We had 4 feet of snow at one time, and we had to get out of the woods and go into this opening where we could see if a tank was coming down through the alongside the tree. So when we got our shovels and got the 4 feet of snow out of the way, then got the picks, bang, that's the way it would do. It's hit like solid cement. It's frozen. We couldn't go down through any more than just that 4 feet of snow. It was all frozen solid. So we had to give it up and we took the gun back into the woods again. But that was the worst winter. It was the coldest winter ever. A lot of guys just got cold. The books tell us most of that. We were okay, our 10 men were usually okay because we had our truck. We could either sleep in it, but not always that because that's a target.
Yeah.
So we'd sleep in the houses, wherever there was one, in barn. We slept in a barn one time on a haystack. That is the softest and the warmest place to, even more than the bed. Yeah, just right there. But this one time they blew our barn out from under, they burned it, so we couldn't sleep there, so we stayed in the house. I don't know why they didn't hit the house, they hit the barn. Oh yeah, because there's 2 Germans were still there, the man and the woman. Okay, so then they knew that when that thing caught on fire, they knew the house was gonna go, the whole thing, barn. So what they do, they went upstairs, and here they are with those great big Germans make it heavy, their furniture. So they were just dragging it down the steps, bangity, bangity, bang, and they couldn't have gone upstairs that way because they're too heavy.
Mm-hmm.
But then, anyway, they bring the thing and they send them out in the yard so the Germans didn't shoot anymore. Got a lot of stories, haven't they?
Yes, sir.
Aren't you tired of your fingers are
I
going?
have to go pretty soon.
Yeah, I
Because
would
I
think
came
so.
back to Springfield, so
You're from Springfield?
around Springfield.
Oh, okay. I used to go to Jacksonville. We got some friends there, a doctor and his wife, a nurse. And went to their house and stayed overnight and then went to Springfield shopping. Oh, if you're from Springfield, how is Springfield now for shopping?
Mr. Vahle,
Good.
That's another
Have
story.
you-
It's good.
have you ever been thanked for your service?
About what?
Have you ever been thanked for your service?
Are you kidding? And just in the last 3 or 4 years, and it's getting more, that people will come up to me and say, thank you for their service, if they know that I was in it for some reason. And they'll say, thank you for your service. When I went on that honor flight in October 12th in 2010, one of the first ones, when we got out of the bus to go into Washington Airport, we went up the ramp, and as soon as we got inside, there must have been 100 people in there just a clapping. They already knew he was coming. And they said, thank you for your service and all that kind of stuff. So that was really great. But on the outside, now in Washington, before we went into the airport, we come out of the bus and we stopped there in a park, and here's some kids, some little ones to big ones. And they all come up and said, just wanted to shake my hands and said, thank you for your service. Isn't that nice?
Yes, sir.
So yeah, I get a lot of that now, and it feels good. Felt better than coming back when that ship was out there, and that's all they did for me. When I got in my town of Quincy, it was dark and nobody knew that I was even coming.
Well, I'd like to thank you for your service and thank you for your time today.
Well, thank you
Okay.
for what you're doing there, and I hope
Yeah.
that I help somebody. That's always my thinking, that I can help somebody somewhere along the way. Then that's why I do all this, just like my pictures and things. I got thousands of pictures. I'm the one that does it in the family. I blow them up and give it to my kid. Makes me feel good just to give it the picture, and just to blow it up bigger.